Have you ever wondered how 2 people, 2 dogs, a bed, a kitchen and a toilet all fit in a van? Welcome to our organised chaos. Here's a day in our van life.
Although most of our videos are based around our travels, where we go, what we see and do, we thought we'd mix it up a little bit this week and give you a little insight into how we just organise our days. But don't worry, we'll be back with the travel videos on the next one.
We're just going out for a morning dog walk, and this is quite a challenging time because the dogs jump down and we're all in this tiny little bit of space whilst I get my coat and boots on and the dogs crowd round here as well. So yeah, it can be a little bit difficult at times, but we're getting used to it now and we actually conform to the dogs' ways.
Okay, so whilst Diane's walking the dog, I'll just come in generally and we'll just get the place straightened up. So it's typically one of us will go and walk the dogs, and then that gives us a bit of space for the other person just to straighten everything up, get some gear away, you know, clothes into laundry, stuff that we've been using during the night on charge if we need to do that. And of course the most important thing is getting some coffee on as well. Now we use an induction hob. We may have said this before. We've got quite a large lithium battery in the back, and so that allows us to use induction. We do have a backup gas cooker, one of these sort of single burning camper ones that use the little butane canisters with. And if our battery's running low, then what we'll do is we'll manage our power typically, and we'll use the gas canister for boiling coffee and for making coffee and tea and that sort of stuff. But that's only because A, we're in the winter, and B, we're right at the very top end of Scotland, and so getting enough solar to recharge the batteries during the day isn't brilliant up here. When we're doing the mileage and we're driving, then we're recharging that way as well. So it sort of tends to balance itself out. And what we found over the past few weeks, maybe the past month or so, we're starting to see the solar that we're getting improving as the sun's getting a bit higher in the sky. Of course, when we go south and into Europe, then it's a different ball game now, and we'll get a ton of solar. But in the meantime, we'll use the induction. We've come out of a campsite as well, so we've been on electric hookup there, and that's given us plenty of charge. So we'll use the induction hob a little bit more once we're full of charge, and then when we start getting down to maybe 60-70%, something like that, we'll start to manage things a little bit more carefully. It depends on if we know we're going to be driving somewhere, or and then we know we're going to get a bit more charge in, so we can be a bit more liberal as and when. But coffee's an important thing. Because we've got an induction hob, we've got to use the right espresso, what do you call these, mocha pots. We've got to use the right mocha pot. The ordinary ones don't work on induction, so this is a stainless steel one. I just want to don't overdo that. We had a hospitality business before we shut it all down, and we used to have great coffee every morning. We were spoiled. This isn't bad actually. This is Tesco's Italian inspired, but it's all right. So what we've done is, whereas we used to be drinking flat whites every morning because they were there, and we had a great big barista machine and all that sort of stuff, now we just make a mocha pot. We tend to sort of almost drink it neat. It's quite intense, but it certainly sets us up for the day. And on some days, depending on what sort of nights we've had, it might be 2 coffees before we go anywhere. Anyway, I'm waffling on about coffees. Let's get this on. So, I have to switch the inverter on. Again, the inverter is something else that draws a bit of power. So I try not to put it on more than I do, because even though it's not, the inverter's giving us 240 volts and we're not drawing on that immediately, the inverter being on in its own right takes a little bit of power out of the system. So we'll just pop that on. You're balanced on the bed, so if you're wobbling around anyway, that's why. And then I've got to get the floor swept as well. Now the dogs come in, we let them sit up on the sofas, they jump on the beds, they do what they want. They're big heavy lumps and we can't move them. Now when we're near a beach, and we've been around a ton of beaches recently, sand, we're probably still pulling sand around from the Outer Hebrides. That's how much. Maybe even the Isle of Mull in January. You know, you can sweep and sweep and sweep it as much as you want, and within 10 minutes it's all back to how it used to be. But we just keep a brush. We have got a rechargeable Hoover up there, but we'll just stay on top of this, get all the plate at the back of the van looking sort of tidy and decent so it feels comfortable, and then when the dogs are walked and the van is tidy, it means we can sit and enjoy our coffee. And I'm going to get that sorted now. Okay, so rubbish is something else we need to deal with. Now, typically if we're in a place that doesn't have a bin around, what we've got on the back of the van here, I'll just show you this, this isn't a Yeti thing, this is just a spare sticker we had lying around. This is it's based on the Australian Trasharoo, and it's just a big old tough rucksack basically that straps on your spare wheel, and you can put your rubbish in there and just keeps it out of the van and stops it building up in there, because we sort of tend to be very careful about what we bring into the van, knowing if we're going to listen to kitchen. But at the moment where we're staying in this car park is a bin next, so I'll get that in. And beach behind us there, Diane is somewhere down there with the dogs, so I'll message her in a minute to come and get a coffee. That's assuming she's remembered to take her phone, because that doesn't happen very often. No, she's left her phone, so I'm just going to have to sort of time coffee. I can keep an eye out, actually, I can see her. Of course, it takes a lot of getting used to living in a small space surrounded by each other, and the fact that we've got two dogs as well who are quite energetic and jump around. So you've got to be mindful of other people, you've got to be thinking about where you are and are you blocking something when somebody else is trying to do something. So we take it in turns of generally moving around the space. So if somebody's having a wash or brushing their teeth, the other one will just keep back a little bit and give them the room to do that. As the weather starts to improve now, we can obviously get outside a little bit more. We can have the side door open a little bit, particularly if we're somewhere a bit more private. We can just come and go a little bit more free, and with the dogs as well. If we're close to a road or something like that, we've got to be careful with the dogs. If we're somewhere in the middle of nowhere, then the dogs can come and go with less worry. The winter months are quite tough because you've got smaller space, because you're closing it down to try and keep it as warm as possible, and got longer nights, it's darker for longer, so you tend to be in the van for longer as well, so that can be a little bit more of a strain. But that said, now we're heading into spring, things are looking a bit brighter. Right, I can see Diane coming back with the dogs, so I'm going to get this coffee poured. How was the walk?
Yes, good. Lexi picked up a radioactive stick and then we managed to lose it, and then Smee found one, so they might be glowing tonight.
Okay, I'll just put that into context because we haven't told anybody. We're actually on a beach close to Dounreay Nuclear Power Station. Lovely beach, but of course there's a sign over near one of the buildings here that says radioactive material has been found on the beach.
Tiny, size of a grain of sand, and really very, 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 very low risk to the public.
Okay, well, you're not glowing, so let's have some coffee.
When you come back in from a walk as well, and the dogs are taking up all the space on the sofa area, we've got this chair that rotates round. We call this area the conservatory, and it just gives us a bit more space and extra seating area as well.
So we've spent the night at Ray, and just across the bay here is Dounreay, the power plant, and everybody knows what sort of power plant that is. And as a result of it, you get a lot of security patrols coming back and forth, and they're just doing their things, and that's okay. Anyway, we've had a nice stop over here. It's very peaceful, great beach. We're going to head off. We're going to take a bit of a detour this time, and we're going to head down towards what they call the flow country, which is blanket bog peatland, very important part of the ecosystem around here, and quite unique to this part of Scotland as well. So we're going to backtrack a little bit on ourselves so that we can go and experience, that's one of the patrols going past, so we can go and experience what this peatland, what this flow country is all about.
Okay, we're all packed up. We have phones on charge, dogs are all secured, so we're heading off now just to start our day.
So typically when we're heading off, we decide what it is we want to go and see or where we're going. We are sort of roughly following a route, but we're not setting concrete, and today's a good example of that. We're actually going back on ourselves because we became a little fixated on something called the flow country around this part of Scotland, which is blanket bog, peat bogland, and we want to go and see a place that is a nature reserve. It's an RSPB nature reserve, but it's also right in the heart of flow country, so we're actually going back on ourselves to look at that a little bit closer, but we've got the flexibility to do that. We also did quite a lot of driving yesterday, so that's sort of given us a shorter day today. We don't want to sort of have 2 or 3 of those on the bounce. It gets a bit tiring doing it that way. So today will probably be an early stop, which will allow us to catch up on some other bits and pieces, some general jobs we want to do in the van, maybe a slightly better clean if it's needed, or the odd little repair that needs doing, video editing, which we're doing quite a bit of at the moment. Okay, so we just had a walk around a nature reserve there. Quite interesting actually. If you're into sort of environment and nature and all that sort of stuff, it's well worth a look. I'll put details on the screen of what it was we've been and looked at, but again we're going to cover it in more detail in a subsequent video. Because we've got a reasonably short day, we've probably only got about a half hour's drive down to where we're going to stop for the night, and it's still early. We're just going to drag our heels a little bit, make a bit of lunch and chill here for a moment or two.
Yeah, so we're just going to make up some sandwiches and have that at the moment. We don't tend to carry too much food with us because obviously we're a small space, we've got a small fridge. So we have some ambient stuff in our cupboards, and then we tend to use local shops where we stock up with fresh stuff as we go.
Okay, so we're done driving for the day. This is a really early stop in the day. We said that previously, and we're doing that for a couple of reasons. It gives us time to look around the town that we've come to. We've come to a place called Helmsdale, and it lets us explore the town in the day instead of just arriving at night at the end of the day and then leaving the following morning. We're right by a harbour, which is quite interesting, and we can stay here. We put a little donation over into the RNLI box that they've got just over on the other side there. Gives us a chance to do a few other jobs as well. We've got a couple of bits to sort out in the van, bit of video editing. In fact, we're probably editing the video that you're watching now. And then we can then settle down and chill for the evening.
We're going to head out and pick up some fish and chips now. Loads of people have recommended this place, so let's go and get some dinner. Just before we head out and pick up something for dinner, we just need to get the table set up.
Okay, this has to be the largest portion of fish and chips. And this was small.
Yes.
This was a small portion. And Diane's gone for scampi and chips. We'll report back afterwards.
We're just getting the van ready now to settle down for the evening. We typically use this time maybe to read, or if we're going somewhere the following day, we research that, see what we can find within the local area. This is just a general overview of our day. Obviously, every day is different for us and we go and do different things, but I hope it gives you an idea of how we work within this small space. We'll be back to our travel videos next time, and we've got some great things to show you on that side of it. If you've enjoyed our videos, please like and subscribe to our channel.